Welcome, Imagineers, to Geek Salad's Disney Hangout. From the Geek Salad podcast, I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And joining us again this week from the great state of California.
Hi, I'm Jonna.
Hey, Jonna. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, two in 2 days. Nice.
Yeah. So today's episode, we are all Imagineers for a day for the Disney parks. They're going through a ton of renovation and changes right now in preparation for the Disney World, the Walt Disney World 50th anniversary, which is happening in 2022. There's a number of rides both on East and West Coast that are closing, that are getting overlays. And I just thought it would be kind of a fun discussion to think about what would you, given the druthers and the ear of the Walt Disney Company, to put in some of those open areas or ride refurbishment or something to that extent, something that you think would work, especially in areas that are underutilized right now or just kind of plain boring. Yeah. All right. So, Jonna, we're going to start off with you because you want to California parks. Which one do you want to pick?
Less open space than you guys than they do in Florida. Sad to say, we're hemmed in on all sides, so it's always a trick. But there are parts of the park that I think are ripe for change, and they are indeed making a lot of changes right now. We're getting our Star Wars Land before Florida. Yes. And we are, but I think one of the most obvious choices for a change would be Tom Sawyer. Right now is fairly criminally underused. It's right now, practically speaking, little more than a staging area for the Fantasmic show.
All right.
And the trick, of course, is that it is truly an island, and so getting there is always a problem. The other problem that you would face, of course, is that so much of it is tied theme-wise into Frontierland. And Frontierland, let's face it, that's an original one, so the purists are going to be a little bit touchy on the subject, but Walt himself was always about changing and growing and not keeping things static. And I think he would, much as he loved the whole idea of the frontier and the Western world that was, that's not what kids' reality is today. When was the last time one of your kids watched a Western or has ever seen a Western?
When was there the last time that a Western wasn't more just a morality play that was R-rated and almost hyper-violent?
Exactly. They're not something that kids today are seeing. So, indeed, all of Frontierland could be ripe for that, and that's a fair chunk of the park. For Tom Sawyer Island, which is so criminally underused, it's an island. What was the most recent major Disney production that we saw that took place on Earth? Huge. Moana.
Yep.
Oh.
That's a good one.
I think that if they could work out the transportation scheme to get people on and off the island with some efficiency, and perhaps in that we could get rid of the Explorer canoes, which, let's face it, nobody loves the Explorer canoes. I don't think even the cast members who deal with them every day like the Explorer canoes. That is ripe for development. And it's got a natural hill or created hill. Yeah. So they could do something in terms of either a simulation or a roller coaster. There's all kinds of things that they could do that would bring in that a very island theme, and still maintain the space that they need for Phantasmic.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's
that space, they can they can build rock formations as they need to. Best part is that being that it's an island, there's not a whole they're not going to have to bear people off from the main chunk of the park while they do that. It is also conveniently adjacent to the access point is conveniently adjacent to the one of the access points for new Star Wars Land.
Okay.
That could bring a whole new life to that end of the park.
Off the top of your head, what is kind of like the square footage of that area? Is it reasonably large? Is it something that would be more of a walkthrough attraction?
The island is pretty big. They have long had it walkthrough attractions. They had it when it was mainly themed toward Tom Sawyer. They had Injun Joe's caves, and there's a whole playground that was built into the rocks. They have a fort. They have the cabin that's used to be on fire, isn't on fire anymore. Yeah, I think there's plenty of space that they could do a major attraction there and really rejuvenate that space, because the most recent thing that they've done is they tried to jazz it up some when they came out with the Pirates of the Caribbean. And that's when they were doing shows that were based on pirates that were out there on the island. And they added like the bone cages and things like that.
Right.
But I couldn't begin to speculate on the square footage, but it's big. I mean, you could fit, I'm pretty sure, easily something like Big Thunder Mountain in there and have space to spare.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that also on the East Coast too with their Tom Sawyer Mountain. The big issue is just getting around the Tom Sawyer the Mark Twain paddle boat. But yeah, that is a good amount of space, and there has been talk of them adding a fourth mountain. So maybe kind of like a hybrid between Splash and Big Thunder with the volcano, where you have to cut at the very end. Because that's been kind of the talk. But I think utilizing Tom Sawyer Island's a perfect place for that.
Yeah, for us, it's one of the biggest chunks of land in Disneyland that's very underused at this point, because let's face it, it's an afterthought. If you've been, and it closes at night before the rest of the park. So if you don't get there early, it's last on the list of the stuff that most kids want. The other idea, Land, I had an idea that they try and make that a sign of what our future could be. And you know, technology is our future, and there was the woeful interventions, which existed mainly to provide a spot with air conditioning when it was miserably hot in the summer. And they themselves acknowledge that. But I think more recently, kids are technological animals. If they could get their hands dirty in robotics, I mean, we just went through Big Hero 6. Bring in Baymax. Bring in someone to take the role of hero, or at least the older team. Walk the kids through it. You could do that as a merchandising thing, but who knows what kids you might spark an imagination. What future Imagineers might get their start there, because kids, they could easily do small robotics for the kids. There are kit ones that wouldn't be difficult. Talk about your souvenir. You can bring it home and drive it around your house. And I think that has potential.
So that's actually reminiscent of something I'm going to bring up in a little bit when we talk about Epcot, but that's a really great idea. Now, Mike, you've been to Disneyland more recently than I, because it's been like 30 years since I've been. Do you have any thing for Disneyland that you would add as well?
Nothing better than what Jonna brought up.
I like those ideas, John. Those are really good.
Actually, I was just thinking that if they want to like kind of delve into like the cave systems in there, you could have it. You go into them and it leads to like this giant cavern with like a waterfall that's basically a recreation of the cave where Moana finds all the boats.
Ooh,
And maybe have on the walls they could have like maybe like cave paintings that kind of move and show the story of the people coming to the island, and they could have the music kind of playing, circulating around there. Just
right.
nothing big, but it's just something to go down, enjoy the atmosphere, the scenery of the cave. Look over the obviously the recreations of the boats to see what the actual Polynesian people used.
Yeah. So now, Mike, what about you? All right, pick a park, Mike.
Most of the ideas I came up with were for Epcot.
Okay.
I got a couple of them there.
Right, what's one of your Epcot ideas?
One of them is for World Showcase. I love World Showcase, but I mean, for like, especially for like little kids, there's really not too. I mean, they're getting better with the Frozen ride. I heard that they might be switching over the Three Caballeros into maybe Coco.
Yep.
But those are the only rides they have right now. I know they're coming out with the
Ratatouille
ride.
Ratatouille in France. I am beyond excited for that one.
I would love to see a ride in England.
Okay.
Because right now they have that gorgeous little garden, but especially with Mary Poppins Returns coming out, having a Mary Poppins ride, it'd be just doesn't need to be big, just a small dark ride, but it just takes you through some of the locations of Mary Poppins, through the streets of London, and you could go into an area where it's just like a cave drawing, the chalk drawing,
yeah,
where everything you see is around you is animated. So as you're riding on the ride, all the scenery, all the characters that are kind of running around, they're all animated. So it makes you feel like you're actually in the cartoon part. And then go up and you're on the rooftops and you have the chimney and the step in time part.
Yeah.
And obviously you can utilize parts from Mary Poppins Returns as well. But for me, that's the most iconic English kind of movie that Disney's ever made.
I'm actually very surprised that there's really not much representation for Alice in Wonderland, which is also a very heavily British.
Well, actually, it's in Fantasyland.
Yeah, Alice gets a lot of representation in Fantasyland.
Right.
Even the Mad Tea Party tea.
Yeah, the Mad Tea Party is the actual name of the teacups.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, my bad.
The other idea that could be for that too, it goes further back, is Disney's version of Robin Hood. You could do something through Sherwood Forest.
Right.
Again.
No. Yep. You're cutting out a little bit, Jonna. Can you repeat that when you cut out a whole bunch of stuff?
Sorry about that. I said that with Robin Hood, there are so many characters that you could do for a simple dark ride. You have Prince John, you have Sir Hiss, Robin, of course, and Little John, Maid Marian. You have even all the Rhino guards.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of flexibility there for what could be a very simple ride. but you could go nuts with the audio animatronics.
Absolutely, that one. I think more so than Mary Poppins, you can go nuts with that.
Well, I mean, with when they took out the Great Movie Ride, there's really, other than meeting Mary in the English Pavilion, that's it for Mary Poppins in the whole movie, all of the parks.
She does show up. If you go to dinner, I can't remember if it's breakfast or dinner at the 112 Park Place at the Grand Floridian.
Oh,
she's there for character meal, but I can't remember if it's the breakfast or if it's the dinner. Because I know with the dinner you get Cinderella's stepsisters, and they're like the highlight of the entire evening.
I just like for me, and for a lot of people, Mary Poppins is considered the greatest film the greatest live action film that Disney's ever made.
Oh, you're not going to get much disagreement from me on that.
Yeah. So the fact no, go ahead.
A lot would depend on the reception that it gets this Christmas when it comes out, and good. I've got a good feeling about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, as do I. But I mean, given how well thought of Mary Poppins is, you'd think they'd have a little bit more representation than a meet and greet and a character breakfast.
Right. Just kind of fell by the wayside, I guess. While we're in the World Pavilion, what country would you add, Mike?
Ooh.
Jonna, you the question goes to you as well.
Oh, I think I would add Brazil.
I'm going to say Brazil as well. I think it's not represented. South America isn't represented at all in the World Pavilion, and just for the food alone.
For the food, for the animals, for their native population, that's rife with possibilities.
Oh, I know what.
There's a very rich culture there too, and I think that some of the street shows, while you're not going to get like the big festival type of more risque stuff on the streets of the World Pavilion and Epcot Center, I do think it would be very, and I've heard that has always been a potential added land in the World Pavilion.
Just the richness that is Carnival would be perfect for a show.
Right.
I have thought of another option as well, though.
Yes.
Australia.
That's been another one. Cuisine-wise, that might be tough.
I don't know. You have lots of lamb.
Yeah.
I mean, Marmite, though.
Oh my God. You go to one of like the little shops. It's like, the Japanese shop, but it's nothing but like Vegemite and didgeridoos and all the other crazy.
But I think there's like, hell, you could even have like a circle vision and have images from like the Ayers Rock, the Sydney, the Outback, even down to the Great Barrier Reef.
With that is definitely what the highlight of that would be its show.
Yeah.
I think Brazil would also have a great.
Oh yeah.
A great 360 show as well. It's tough. I know, but I know that like Brazil has been in the discussion for a long, long time. Because there's not really much representation of that or Africa.
Actually, Egypt.
Representation in the animal kingdom.
I think Egypt could be interesting, having like the pyramids or a recreation of the Sphinx.
Right. I know the only reason really why Morocco is there is because it's the only World Pavilion that is still sponsored by its host country.
Yeah.
If Morocco pulled their money tomorrow, it's gone the next day.
Which would be a shame because if nothing else, the food there is amazing.
That's what I've heard. Mike, anything else in Epcot before Jonna and I get our claws into Epcot as well?
Well, I mean, I did have another idea for a different area. The Imagination Pavilion. Now, I love the Figment, but let's face it, since the original Journey into Imagination ride,
Like,
huh?
I'm getting Julie on the phone right now.
Yeah, since the original Journey into Imagination ride, the Pavilion has really been one that you could easily forget and skip.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, just looking at the movies that they've come up with the last like 5 years, Inside Out would fit perfectly. And you could even keep it as an imagination, because you could have it as an imagination island.
Yep.
And have joy, happy, joy, sadness, all the emotions, kind of escort you through. And you could even throw in Figment as like the mascot of Imagination Island.
Right, like he and Bing Bong meet up at something.
Exactly.
And then not a dry eye on the People Mover. I have actually heard that is another one that is an actual serious conversation, because it's just like, I mean, as beloved as Figment is, that new ride is not, and they're not gonna bring it back to the old style.
Well, they can't. Like we said, the character of Dreamfinder, or was it Dreamweaver, Dreamfinder? Dreamfinder, yeah, is owned by Kodak, and apparently they have no intention of giving it back to Disney.
Right.
So they got to do something else with it.
Yeah. No, and I love the idea of Inside Out, because it's so. Well, first of all, it would make more sense for why joy and sadness are meet and greet characters.
Yeah.
So close to that area.
How you could have their meet and greet inside that area.
You could. You absolutely could do that. Jonna, anything for Epcot?
Nothing really specific, except that as far as I can tell, the biggest space that right now is pretty much underutilized, except for the festivals. I don't even know the name of the building, but it's when you're
Universe of Energy.
No, that one I know they're doing they're redoing that for
Guardians of the
Galaxy.
Okay.
But no, it's the building where they have like the chocolate set up during the Food and Wine Festival, and that's a huge building unto itself.
Yeah,
and right now they're using it as display space.
Yeah, I believe it used to be Horizons, I believe.
That's the one I was thinking of. Right, essentially, what it was conference space, and then they put like a little DVC lounge there. But it's essentially it's warehouse space. It's visible warehouse space.
Yeah, I mean during the Food and Wine festival, and during the Flower Garden Festival, they use it to like just kind of show off stuff and do presentations and do stuff like that.
They did cooking demonstrations, had examples of like chocolate and candy making art and that sort of thing.
And a great place to buy Ghirardelli's.
All right, so John, what would you put in there? What would you put in Horizons?
Well, literally the horizon is wide open there. If you wanted to get into, if the purist wanted to keep Figment in his, that one is big enough, and kind of the shape would work with it as being somebody's brain moving around. You could have different sections devoted to the different emotions. It's not something I'd given a whole lot of consideration to, just a vague idea, but that is, to me, that space is just crying out to be utilized.
It is.
And brought back into the fold of Epcot, because right now if Mike hadn't had to go there to try and get a promotional item for the Food and Wine Festival, I wouldn't have even known it was there.
I think that in that area you could do what you had recommended earlier about like a robotics exhibition and souvenir shop for Big Hero 6, you could also try to do a dark ride for Wally, just keeping with the futuristic and science theme of Epcot, of walking them through a planet's deterioration and rebirth through gardening.
That would be very appropriate to what Epcot was originally intended to be.
Right, and I think that your people movers are two tandem chairs that all the fat fatties in Wally were like riding on.
Oh dear.
That would be awesome.
That was interesting because I mean on on the right side, whether they have imagination, land, and oceans, that's kind of like the the organic, the biologic side.
Yeah.
And the left side is more science and technology. The Wally part, kind of, I mean, it's robots, but it's all about kind of conservation in the land. So it kind of straddles both sides.
It would work both ways. And again, this is just my feeling that Wally is criminally forgotten about just in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be really cool. Just you have the track, you do the dark ride, you show what happens when pollution builds up to the point where you've got robots just stacking it building size, and then being able to rebuild from that. I think that would be really cool. So I do want to read one though that Julie, who could not join us, has, and this is for Epcot, so I feel it matters here. Julie writes, I wish there was a Finding Nemo world or a Nemo underwater world. Way more immersive than the aquarium that they have. You can visit the drop-off. It could be a roller coaster for the EAC, some sort of virtual reality ride on the back array, and adorable otters. You could honestly, there is an area near the seas with Finding Nemo and Friends, off to like if you're looking directly at it, off to the left side, that could definitely be built up, I think, to be able to capacitate that. The Nemo ride itself is cute, but it's nothing special.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, I think you could definitely take that a step further. I love the effect that they do with the EAC, but having something that actually does move you more up and down would be kind of cool.
I think the idea of an EAC roller coaster is brilliant. I would ride the heck out of that.
And Mike would hold the heck out of your purse that entire time.
Everybody has something for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I would just like I could use that, but maybe kind of derivation. Maybe just have tunnels, like glass tunnels where you're walking through under the ocean, and you could walk through kind of parts of the aquarium that have been made up to look like the drop off, and you could walk through a tunnel that has like all the EAC imagery going around it.
Yeah.
But just so you could like look up and you'd actually be underwater and have all like the fish and actual creatures swimming around. So basically make the aquarium bigger and then build like a walk through it.
I mean, the hotel at Atlantis in the Bahamas is very similar to that. You can actually walk underneath a tunnel. So this isn't virgin territory to be able to do that. Now, what would be cool is the integration of the hologram technology that they use at the end of the Nemo ride to include them in front of the aquarium. And of course, you need Sigourney Weaver narrating the whole thing.
Why Sigourney Weaver?
Have you seen Finding Dory?
No.
Damn it, Mike. There's a running gag throughout Finding Dory where they're at this it's essentially like a SeaWorld.
Mm-hmm.
And the first voice that Dory hears is Sigourney Weaver, who's kind of walking them through the whole purpose of the Institute and how they kind of made it into this public area, but they're there to preserve sea life. I'm Sigourney Weaver. Hi, Sigourney Weaver. Sigourney Weaver told me I need to go here.
When I was a child, I went to Chicago and I went to the aquarium that they have there. And do you remember the scene from the original Finding Nemo where they went down into the abyss and
Yeah.
Dory gets transfixed by the bobbing light?
I'm gonna get
And
you.
all of a sudden, she's face to face with the giant fish
Yep.
with the scary fangs. Well, when I was at that aquarium, they had living examples of those fish. You
They have the
walked into
angler?
the dark room, and you could see the little illumination bobbing around behind the glass of those actual fish. So, it wouldn't even have to be very big if they did that section. But I think the kids would get an immense kick out of it because those things are real.
Yeah. I mean, they're also able to capacitate like really huge water pressure too. So that's the thing. You'd have to go down deeper. You know, essentially have to dig deeper into the swamps of Orlando to make that a reality. I would
They
love to
managed
see
to do it on the
that.
shores of Chicago, so
Yeah, that's true. They did in Chicago, and I don't know what trash heap that was built on, but
I think Florida might be lower down on the the water table than Chicago is.
Yep. So, changing parks, I struggle with something for Hollywood Studios, and I only have one thing, and it might actually be becoming a reality, and that is the mini Indiana Jones land that's been discussed. They've been talking about scuttling the Stunt Spectacular that's been around. That was an opening day attraction.
Mm.
And then taking that area and turning it into more like they would actually put the ride that's at in California out
the Indiana
there,
Jones.
as well as setting up the overall theme as being very Aztec-y and very just Indiana Jones like. I mean, sans the Nazis, I believe.
Well, I mean, they do have a lot of space there. I mean, they have like an entire parking lot right there that they put all those giant sets through.
Oh, I lived it, Mike. Remember?
Oh yeah.
I stood in front. I was right near that plane. So yeah, no, and it would be a shame to see the Stunt Spectacular go. I think they might be able to shrink it a little bit, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see that go away, but it would be nice to integrate because there's an area right in front of the Stunt Spectacular that is essentially the shops.
Yeah.
I have that great Indiana Jones shirt, and I got that from that area.
Mm.
So that's all I could think of for Hollywood Studios, mainly because that is right now the park that is under all of the construction.
Yeah, I didn't come up with anything for Hollywood Studios because they're already pretty much doing everything you could think of.
They're making my dreams come true.
Jonna,
Yeah,
are they utilizing the space that used to be the stunt car show? Has that been absorbed into?
That's Star Wars Land right there.
Oh, it is.
That's all. Yeah,
I was a little
Galaxy's Edge
unsure.
is going to be enormous.
Yours might be. Ours will be compact.
Actually, I believe it's the same size on both coasts. They're both going to be about 14 acres.
Wow,
We have to do a lot of stuff off site for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about Animal Kingdom? John, I'll start with you. What would you change about Animal Kingdom?
Oh, the first thing that would have to go would be Dino Land. And and I have to say, if they wanted to keep the Indiana Jones show even exactly as it is, Dino Land would be ripe for putting an Indiana Jones adventure type ride there.
Right.
I mean,
again,
they've already
thing that you have in California.
Yeah, they already have basically the setup right now with the dinosaur ride for that for the movie that nobody remembers anymore.
Yeah, it's the same ride mechanics. It's the same vehicle setup. It is basically the same ride, just dinosaurs instead of Indiana Jones.
Dinosaur.
Yeah.
And with that, then actually the dinosaur stuff could start to make more sense. Indy's an archaeologist. Then you could get into things like the digs. You know, let the kids chip out their own dinosaur bone. You know, let them crack open a geode or something. Let them. You can explore some of the more natural stuff alongside the theatrical ride.
Right.
And I don't think that Dinosaur is so beloved, given that literally nobody remembers the movie, that there would be much hue and cry if they rethemed it out to the Indiana Jones thing.
I agree with that. In fact, I think that that's a better idea for that area. I mean, I said this on like our very first Disney discussion. Dino Land should be Zootopia.
I would agree with both Zootopia, but I would switch it, not put it in Dino Land. I would put it in Rafiki's Planet Watch.
Okay.
Because think about it, how does Judy get to Zootopia in the beginning? She rides on that big old train.
Yep.
How do you get to Rafiki's Planet Watch?
The train.
Yeah, so just redesign the train, make it more like the train that is in Zootopia, and then you have that entire area that you could do. You could make into basically a recreation of Zootopia.
Yeah. Okay, I could see that. Okay, then if we did that, we, you know, us three, the Imagineers here, did that, then do you, and this is more of a respect for the continent type of thing, would you then use Dino Land, that area that Dino Land is in right now, that sticks out like a sore thumb, doesn't feel like it ever belonged, area of Dino Land, would you turn that into Wakanda? The Disney parks have the rights, as far as I am aware, to Black Panther. So I feel like you could do it. You couldn't put Wakanda into the World Pavilion, and I would actually keep it as far the hell away from the actual areas of India or Africa. I would actually keep it kind of separate as part of a fantasy area, which is on the far end of Animal Kingdom. Would you do that?
It'd be really cool if, you know, how right now you get into Dinosaur Land by pretty much going under that kind of bridge.
Yeah.
Imagine if they did some kind of like just kind of like almost like a hologram laser fence. You walk through and it's like that, like when the ship flies through the hologram into Wakanda. That'd be pretty cool.
Honestly, if you shorten the overall the arc, if you shrink the arc so it's not super high, like a gigantic entryway, you can easily obscure a lot of that area leading up to it because the natural foliage will take over. And then when you walk in, it's just completely modern. And then you throw just a couple of animatronic giant rhinos in there.
A battle rhino.
Yeah.
I would just love to be able to see the giant panther statue. That would be bad.
That would be really cool. I think that would also be, I think that would end up being forced perspective anyway, like the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool.
I mean, you really, I do not know what kind of rights they've got with Universal. That's a whole legal quandary I don't want to deal with.
Feeling that Black Panther is one of those untouched ones because Universal set their ground on the A-listers. There are like Guardians. Disney World has the rights to the Guardians of the Galaxy. Very much a Marvel character, but was such a C and D level group of characters to begin with. That, why not? We'll take them. And Black Panther was kind of in that same boat.
Yeah.
So It'll be
That's
interesting.
a possibility. I think they're definitely throwing all their Marvel energy right now into California Adventure.
Yes.
Where Marvel Land is underway.
Right, and I know that the cruise lines are doing the Marvel at Sea as well now.
Yes, I've seen the ads, and I have to say I'm very intrigued by the one. They have a look-alike of Doctor Strange standing in front of the swirling vortex, and then whoosh, it's gone.
Oh,
and all you have is the window. And that's some fairly simple projection technology, I think, for them.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get to the big Florida daddy here, the Magic Kingdom. Mike, what would you put in Magic Kingdom?
I don't know. I love Magic Kingdom.
You had a brilliant idea.
Well, I want to go last because I know I have such a brilliant idea.
Well, I mean, I genuinely I love Magic Kingdom, so it's hard for me to say what I would change or add to it because I think it's really, really good as is.
Okay.
I would say one thing and I asked my mother about this. My mother is 75, and she said that one of the things that she wanted out here is they're taking out seating. And sometimes you just need to sit, especially if you're older.
Right.
And one of the big things that we have out here is a train that runs full circle around Disneyland. It literally encircles the park. And I was dumbfounded to learn that Disney World's does not.
No,
that Magic Kingdom does not. And I think that would not be. They might have to reroute it some so it's not a perfect circle. Well, surprise, with the addition of Star Wars Land, neither is ours a perfect circle anymore. But they still have it, and sometimes it's the perfect break that you need in the middle of a long, hot day.
Yeah.
To get off your feet and listen to somebody telling you about the different lands that you're going through. You can peruse the park, decide what you want to do next, and just relax for a spell.
There's actually up here there, Canopy Lake Park and Storyland out in Maine both have that. They both have it doesn't run the entire outer perimeter of their parks, but it's a good way of just taking a break, going around. You can hop off at 4 different points to let you off at any point in the park. Disney World's Railroad will be shut down until the Tron roller coaster opens in 4 years.
That's a shame. I mean, I do like their train, but I wish, like, one thing I like more about the Disneyland train is the fact that it does have those drop-off points at like the.
We've got one for in New Orleans Square.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
One in Fantasyland, we've got one in Tomorrowland, and of course we've got Main Street Station. So you can pretty much, even if we don't have one, there's always a station not too far from wherever you're going.
Right.
Yeah, right. And I think if the Disney World train has any drop off as well, I think it's just one, and I think it might be in the new Fantasyland area.
It drops you. Except we did this last year when Autumn and I went. We picked it up right between Big Thunder and Splash Mountain. That's where you get onto it. And it brings you right to the front of the park where Town Hall is. And you get right next to that bathroom that is essentially a restroom where just people just sit on the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So, John, anything else you would change with the Magic Kingdom before I hit with my doozies? I have two really big ones.
No, I think that's the main one. That park, with the climate, I think that would be something. It's a simple thing. It's traditional, but I think people would really like it just for the break.
Yeah. Okay, so they closed Stitch's Great Escape. Finally. It is finally dead. As Frodo Baggins would say, it's done, Sam. It's done. Here's what you do with it. You do not put a ride back in that building. What you do is you redesign the interior of it and you make it the ultimate meet and greet area. So you separate it in like three different parts. One part, you have characters from movies that just came out. So if you have, it's kind of tough to say because most of the releases coming up are either sequels or live action. But let's just say they introduce a few new characters in Frozen 2 when that comes out next year. You put them in there. You have the newer characters. Like, I was stymied that there was no place to meet Nick and Judy from Zootopia when we went a couple years ago. You could put them in there and give them that meet and greet there with the photo pass and all that. So that's one section. Section number 2 is for classic characters. Characters you don't see all the time, and it's continually rotating. So you do stuff like you put Robin Hood in there. You put Oswald in there. Every once in a while, throw Roger Rabbit in there. Not Jessica Rabbit, because that character design, I just saw that tonight on a Disney Dan video. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But you have the characters that you never see in the park, the underrepresented characters. And then on the third side of the building, you put the villains. Essentially, the only time you ever get to see villains is during Not So Scary.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that would love to have that meet and greet with Captain Hook or Maleficent or really anybody.
Yeah, I think that would be really popular. One of the best stories I heard about once was we sometimes do get the villains who are walking around. And I heard of one where a Cruella was walking around and she stops by this couple who's just sitting there. They have their baby in a stroller, leans over, peers in the stroller, gives a little sniff and goes, "No spots."
I think that would be cool. And also, I think in terms of just cost effectiveness, something we don't talk about because, we've got Disney's wallet here. Cost effectively, it would cost less to hire more people to get into the suits and just rebuild the interior of the building than it would be to have to come up with a new ride mechanism and more screens and maintenance issues and all that. It would never go down.
Actually,
in an enclosed space, you could climate control it, which would be a godsend for some of the characters, given the nature of their costumes.
Right. It would be a very popular fast pass for that reason, I think. Or maybe not even fast pass. It's just a great way of getting out of the heat.
And another thing that, because I love the People Mover, right now it goes like around the outside of that building. If you did that, you could probably like put a track through the building so you could actually look and have windows and see exactly who's doing the meet and greet right now. So then you'd go right from that right over to the building and get in the meet and greet line.
Right. And the cool thing too is that in the front you could have something like a movie marquee, today featuring such and such and special guest. Because I was talking to a few people at work about this. There are people that collect these pictures of them with the characters. So giving them kind of like this ultimate character emporium that's always changing. And it's the one thing in Disney that you can never count on being the same every single time you go. So that's one idea. Now, the other idea, and this is going back to an opening day tradition, Tomorrowland Speedway.
Yeah.
It's old. Everybody hates it. I honestly don't think that anybody who would be upset about the changes I'm going to recommend would actually take action. No torches will be lit. No pitchforks will be sharpened.
But the delightful smell of diesel. Come on.
My idea is that you do a full makeover, not an overlay, not just a temporary overlay, a full makeover. You make it Sugar Rush. You make it the racing game from Wreck-It Ralph. It would honestly breathe brand new life into a stagnant ride. You don't need to give them the hills and all, like the jumps and all that. All the cars will be decorated differently. The racetrack would be different. You could even maybe pipe in like that Sugar Rush theme, that really stupid, catchy theme, through the speakers while you're driving. And at various points, they might the car may speed up because of a power up or something like that if you drive over something. And just very simple, you don't have to reimagine the entire ride, but just give it some innovation to make it feel more like a video game car ride and not just a.
Well, the thing is right now, that anyone who is over the age of 16 who has their own driver's license really doesn't care. The bloom is off that rose for just driving, and that's what it is right now. Little kids, they love it. They have the sensation that they're actually driving, even though you're on a rail. I think your idea would be great because it would provide interest for the adults who are right now, frankly, they're like third time around.
Yeah.
In particular. And for the kids, it's the characters that they've seen in the movie. It's fun. It's candy themed, and they get to drive.
Right.
So win-win.
And the other thing too is that you could actually, I mean, I know it's a fully outdoor ride, so rain is an issue, but you can put King Candy in a, like, you know, in a covered area, even if it's just like a screen where he's just like, races, get ready, something like that, just to make it, just to give it a little more, just make people want to ride that again. I mean, Test Track has rendered Tomorrowland Speedway irrelevant. Because Test Track is an interactive experience with a super fast ride at the end of it.
Actually, kind of going off of what they just did to the Incredicoaster, you know, where they've added tunnels where when you go through the tunnel, they have basically the tunnels are just giant screens where they're telling the story of, you know, the Incredibles and the adventure you're on.
Yeah,
they could probably put a whole bunch of tunnels around the track, and when you drive through them, you have, you know, like King Candy or Penelope or Ralph, you know, kind of talking to you and saying, "Yeah, good going."
Yeah, you could even add sensory in addition to that sensory input, like they do on Soaring, where they had the sense of oranges. Wouldn't be difficult to add the sense of sweets.
They do it on Main Street USA anyway. They pump in all that scent to begin with.
Yeah. And
then right after you get off, it's right next to Main Street USA. I'll go get myself a candy apple.
Oh hell! You don't even need to walk to Main Street USA. I'm sure they could put one right there.
True. Oh yeah.
You walk through a candy store. Guess what you're gonna be getting? All the kids are gonna want candy.
Actually, they've done a variation on that at they opened a new big candy emporium.
I heard about that. I heard it's really cool. I want to check that out. That's a Pixar Pier, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike and I'll get a chance to see that in about a week and a half.
Can't wait to see the pictures. So,
Candy.
Jonna, that leaves one more park, and that's Disney California Adventure. I have never been. What would you change?
Well, the first thing that I would do is I would relocate the Monsters, Inc. ride so that it is in Pixar Pier with its Pixar brethren.
That's about the one that used to be the Hollywood limo ride.
Oh God, yes.
That embarrassment.
That was a horrible ride. Nobody liked that ride. But I find the Monsters, Inc. ride pretty charming. It's your standard dark ride, but it has its own sweet charm, and I would hate to see it lost. but it's really out of place where it is. And in moving it, you would also open up a nice big chunk adjacent to where they are building Marvel Land now.
Mm-hmm.
Bugs Land is gone, and they have already published all kinds of plans for California, for Marvel Land. And I had in my head the idea of it could be just Iron Man, or it could be an Avengers ride that combines some of the technology of a virtual ride with the technology that you see at either Buzz Lightyear's or the Toy Story ride, where you're target shooting. Imagine yourself as Iron Man firing off laser beams at targets that are flying at you.
Oh, neat.
There are other ways you could do it. You could do it more ground level if you had to, but I think the flying thing would be very popular.
I can see that. That actually gave me an idea as well. First of all, my friend Matt Jones, who works at Disneyland, showed me a picture of Bug's Life with the Stark, like the Stark logo in front of it, and I'm like, well, they missed the opportunity right there, because you can still see the Bug's Life sign behind him. Like, that should be Pimtech.
Oh yeah.
But here's what you do. This is just riding on your idea as well. You use the ride mechanics for the Ratatouille ride, which I don't know if you guys have seen.
Yeah, trackless.
It's a trackless dark ride. But what the one in France, what they do is they actually make you get smaller, and then while you're in your little car, you're moving underneath things and you're at people's things. Imagine doing that with Ant-Man.
Oh yeah.
That would be fun.
That would be fun, because instead of it being like stoves and kitchens and all that, you're like working under people under you're almost underfoot, and you're under cars. And maybe what you do is you get the wings, or you grow bigger. And you're going over, so maybe you kind of boost the seat up a little bit, so you're kind of like looking like this, and you're getting bigger.
That also harkens back to a very classic Disneyland ride, when you have Ant-Man, where he got so small that they were worried about him disappearing. Disneyland, when I was a child, my favorite ride was the Journey to Inner Space, where you got where they shrank you down through the microscope, and so you got to be atom sized.
That could be really cool. I mean, those are some great ideas for I'm hoping that they're doing some of those. That would be awesome. If not,
they could even make all the tourists happy by bringing back the eyeball peering through.
Just imagine the visuals of riding through a ride that takes you through the quantum realm.
That would be really, really cool.
Wow, they're just like so many ways you could just do that really, really awesome.
You could actually take that area, that Marvel area, and split that up between, like what Jonna had mentioned, maybe alternate the cars. So there are certain cars that your controller has like like an Iron Man glove, and that's what shoots. And there's one with Hulk fists, and there's one with like a Thor hammer. And when you do that, like the little targets respond in different ways through lightning or repulsor rays or just being smashed. I mean, you definitely have to have one of those off-the-shelf rides as well. Unfortunately, be the Captain America saucer swirl or something.
Yeah, and then the father gets stuck with the Hawkeye bow.
Yeah. None of this makes sense, Mike.
One of my coworkers, I asked her about that today, and her idea was to have something where you could step into Spidey's suit idea, basically, and give yourself a simulation of the swinging from building to building and shooting your webs.
You honestly, I mean, something like that, and some of the Avengers powers themselves would essentially be the ride mechanics of Star Tours, I think. Just like the simulation where you move from character to character, or it alternates.
But there is space to do more than one ride in that if you move the Monsters Inc. ride, and so that opens up so many creative possibilities there.
I agree. So wow, guys, we got our work cut out for us now. I'll go get a shovel.
The city is flying. We're fighting an army of robots, and I've got a bow and arrow.
I've got a bow and arrow.
None of this makes sense.
I love Hawkeye. So yeah, guys, this was a fantastic conversation. Hopefully some of this stuff actually comes through. It's really cool. You know, it's like we spent 8-10 weeks talking about all the different things that we love and hate about the parks. This was kind of fun just to come up with something that would make the parks even better.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that.
And it also takes care of some of the things that we didn't that we pointed out that we really didn't like.
Right.
And
like Dinoland USA. I see that place.
Yes.
Or Dinoland USA.
Yeah, or let's go. I know what, I'm going to do you one better. Dinoland USA.
Yeah, you got it.
What are Carnival prize stands doing at Disney World? It makes no sense, but you know what? We have better ideas.
Yes.
This also is going to be fun too, because tomorrow I start my Disney dining planning. Tomorrow is day 180.
Oh, enjoy, man. Enjoy.
I've got my list. I got to just revamp the list tonight. We've got all our places set up. It will be a tasty adventure for everybody.
I have one word for you.
Yes.
Beer garden.
No one but myself would eat there.
Doesn't matter. Beer garden.
Okay, I will abandon my family for beer garden, Mike.
Hey, beer and all you can eat German food. Nothing going wrong with it.
I don't know what my family's problem is. Well, Jonna, thanks again for joining us. This has been a fun week of discussionings of Disney things, including Nightmare Before Christmas, which Jonna joined us with earlier this week on our retro movie review.
Yes.
And today, I guarantee at some point we'll have another Disney conversation, maybe after all of our respective trips are over between now and May of next year when my family goes.
Well, actually, but by the time of May, we'll be a couple months away from D23.
Yeah, and then the opening of Galaxy's Edge.
Yep.
You lucky bastards. So, thanks again, Jonna, for helping us out.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And,
So,
we'll be taking notes.
Yeah. So Mike and I host a little podcast called Geek Salad. If you're watching us, this is where our YouTube channel is. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to it. Also, if there's anything you would change about any of the parks, something you'd like to add, you love our ideas, you hate our ideas, we want to know, leave a comment below. Also, stop yawning, Mike.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm tired too. You can also get the audio for the Geek Salad podcast at our website, geeksalad.podbean.com, on Stitcher, on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google Music. You can also follow us on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio and Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. So until next time, I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And I'm Jonna.
Go forth, be nerdful, and Hakuna Matata.